Welcome everybody, the bar is open. Dr. Drunk, aka here with another World of Warships game for you. This time, we're playing solo. And of course, because wargaming is wargaming, the battle loading screen doesn't really work, as is common right now. But we do have side panels available so you can see we are in very small matchmaking. After a day of being griefed by carriers, I decided to take Dalarna out and see what I could get out of her. In this case, we end up in a 7v7 with a super CV and a couple of very unfortunate tier 9s. Now, looking at the team lineups, we actually have a cruiser. They do not have a cruiser. They have a extra battleship. So they have 4 battleships, 2 destroyers, and a super carrier. In fact, it is the wonderful creature that is the USS United States. Big sigh. Dalarna, as I build her, is built for an AA boat. She is built specifically to grief carriers. There are definitely times when you're just sick and tired of having little hornet gnats and buzz bombers and all kinds of other shit flying at you, so there are days when you just want them to disappear. Dalarna, in her full AA build, is very, very effective at making that happen, as you will see. I think it puts out, it's either 12 or 13 flak, and the flak does 2100 something damage. With defensive AA and a couple of captain skills, that flak does bonus damage, and to be honest, the only ship that really can drop outside of your AA range would be something like a Nakamov, and, well, even if it does get through, those planes don't really come home. But what we're going to do here, we have no support behind us. I know the Schlieffen and the Seattle are out of the cap. They can't do much to help me. We're not located, so we know that we have free reign on this flank for the most part. There are a couple of battleships for sure. We have no idea where their DDs are, at least until now. We know there's something in the cap with us now. And of course, our CV, the Siki Ryu, is torturing the enemy Jean Bar, as you can see in chat. Now, Ulster Jutland, this poor guy really, unfortunately, does not stand a whole lot of a chance here. Unfortunately for me, he has a couple of friends. I do not. We take a big hit there from the Grosser Kerr first. Keep an eye on him. We'll see a little bit of him later. We know this guy dropped torps. He had to have dropped torps early on, but we do have such good gun power in this build. Even if it's not a gun build, we have good gun power in this, and as you can see by the detection ranges, that GK is actually out of our gun range, so once we kill the Oster, we're able to go dark. Now, we did trade probably 13,000 health, potentially. Maybe 10,000 health. 10 to 12,000 health for that, but 10 to 12,000 health for a full health DD is actually pretty damn good. I'm going to really argue with this idea, to be very honest. At this point, we know the Yamagiri's in Charlie, obviously, because it was capped, and our tier 9 battleship is now dead to torpedoes from the Yamagiri. That said, our Ushakov is still deciding, you know what, that's a good idea. I can wander down there. That's not a bad idea. Not that there's any kind of unspotted destroyer down here that I need to worry about, but, you know, honey, I'm going for a walk. That must be what it is. At this point, we have a couple of battleships that are going to push. We have a Schlieffen that is, I'm not quite sure what our Schlieffen is trying to do. He doesn't seem to realize that overmatch is truly a thing, and he's trying to go bow on to a Georgia, a Satsuma, and not really to the GK, but to the GK as well, with the carrier available to help. Needless to say, this Schlieffen will not be long for this world. And as it stands, we have a 2-cap advantage, and we have a 1-ship advantage for perhaps the next 30 seconds or so. Not even 30 seconds, the next 3 seconds or so. Satsuma punches the Schlieffen right in the nose and sends him directly back to port, which, honestly, that is where most Schlieffens find themselves in relatively short order. Now, our Chungmu, I gotta be honest, this game was honestly quite something. Our Chungmu is going to pull off a maneuver here, which I can only describe as the man's about to go balls deep. That's all I can tell you. And if you need an explanation for that, I suggest you go get a look at Urban Dictionary, because I'm not going to explain that on YouTube. The Chungmu wraps himself around the front of this island as the Yamagiri nukes our Ushikov, so our super battleship is gone. In fact, all of our battleships are now gone. The Chungmu wraps around the corner of the island and puts almost every torpedo into the Satsuma, but magically he has a reload booster. So that is a dead Satsuma. I make a critical error here thinking, you know what, I'm going to go for the quick kill on the Georgia. Honestly, knowing the angle those deep water torps came at that Georgia for, I probably should have shorted those torps. But I was trying to go for the full-on kill on this Georgia. And that may have been a mistake which costs us our carrier later on in the game. As it stands, we are down 4 ships to 3. We are down a small points difference, only because of the 2 caps that we have ticked along for quite a while. Now, as you can see, we pop our Def AA against the United States dive bombers, and we nuke 5 of his strike aircraft. Not combat patrol, not air combat air patrol fighters, but strike aircraft. Now, my thought process here. Our Seattle is going to be dead. Our Seattle cannot live behind this island with a Georgia, a GK, and CV Focus. He is going to be dead. However, he will provide a very decent distraction for both the battleships and the carrier. My best bet of winning this game, and this is what's going through my head at this point, my best bet of winning this game is to go kill the Yamagiri. If I can keep our CV alive, we have a chance of winning this game. If our CV dies, we do not have a chance of winning this game. I need his Alpha Strike. He has a much better opportunity for doing alpha damage to battleships than I do. Torpedoes depend on your predictive process, and sometimes we're good, sometimes we're not so good. So far in this game, not so good. The CV is focusing on the Seattle, and the Seattle is not long for this world. He is going to die. That is a guarantee. However, because we have controlled 2 of these caps for as long as we have, we still have a mild points differential. In fact, we lose it here because we lose a ship, but we do still have a points difference. We have a little bit of a buffer here. Our CV spots the Yamagiri as he's leaving smoke because God knows he doesn't want to run into a Dalarna who is on a mission from God and has vengeance in his eyes. But he does anyway. We turn into any potential torpedoes, and we ping the map, hoping that our CV will understand the concept of go spot and or reset the GK. Turns out he cannot get there in time. The GK is actually outside of my gun firing range. Remember, I don't take any kind of range updates on this ship because I want to be able to go dark faster. However, if we look at the way that GK is going to push, we assume that GK probably wants to see the CV. He probably wants to keep all of his guns working. So the assumption is he will not turn bow on to the CV. He will continue along the path that he is on right now. As he starts to turn in towards the CV, we start to fire on him. Why do we start to fire on him? Number one, I want to get a fire on him. I want to see if he's going to be dumb enough to punch his DCP really quickly. And secondly, I want him to turn towards me so those torpedoes have a better chance at striking him broadside instead of bow on. As it stands, we predicted correctly, and he floods. And now we get to see something incredibly spicy. The Super CV, the USS United States, tries to come and destroy the little Dalarna that could. However, fuck you, CV, look what I found. I have found the magic of Super Dalarna AA. Now, that GK is not flooding. That means that GK is used as damage control. Here comes the Super CV. He's going to spot me. I might as well, if I'm going to be spotted, open up. And here I make an actual critical error. And this comes down completely to habit. The best way to dodge rocket planes is to slow down. However, slowing down in front of a GK at 7 kilometers is going to lead to a painful bad time. He gets his front guns off, he gets his rear guns off, and I take, what about 4K, 5K in damage, maybe even a little more from his secondaries, but we are still well and truly alive. We have 2 heals, and more importantly, we set a fire on that Grosser Kerr first, so he is going to be ticking down. My theory behind this entire game is forcing out damage controls. The more damage controls that are forced out, the more that I can keep that damage control on cooldown, the better chance we have of winning. And now, as I had said earlier, my best chance of keeping this game alive and having a win is going to be letting the CV do his thing against battleships. It's a battleships? Yeah. It's a Seki Ryu. It's a super Hakuru. It has armor-piercing bombs. All of these battleship decks are basically vulnerable to armor-piercing bombs. Unfortunately, CVs are also very vulnerable to other CVs. Whoever would have thought? Imagine that. World War II taught us something, I guess. We dip down into Charlie to capture this and stifle their points gain. As it stands, we drop torps on where we believe that GK will either push through the gap chasing or turn out. I have news for you, and I have a little secret. He ain't going to be able to turn out. But it's not what you think it is. We get our AA Defense Expert, which Jersey Swirsky gives me bonus 10% damage to my AA. So I actually get bonus DPS. Incredible. And as you can see, the jump bar on the other team, I went to pee and I came back to this. You sure did. As you notice, we're down about 60 points. And we're gaining points. Because we have 2 caps and they have 1. So we're gaining 36 points per cap per minute, so 36 points per minute. Rocket planes, or the jet bombers, come out. I know for a fact they travel too quickly. If I'm smart with my air detect ranges, they travel too quickly, for him to get a decent drop on me. So, as we see the carrier has to be in A, we saw the GK grounding. And now this is where our carrier is going to come in pretty clutch. Our carrier is going to drop his last 2 planes after dropping a fighter. These last 2 torpedo bombers, you'll see just as this guy fades away, you see the torpedoes come out, and they hit for about 15K. Now, my assumption, only because I've dealt with Seki Ryu in the past, and I know those damn torpedoes, they have a high flood chance. I could have zoomed in here, and I probably could have looked to see if this GK was flooding. But looking at the minimap, looking at his location, I have to assume he's going to turn back to the cap to defend it. Have to assume that. Why their carrier decided to fly around me, I'm not sure. But because of my assumption that he'll turn back to defend the cap, as he needs to do to ensure that I can't possibly take it and keep winning, I lead those torps a lot further than the white line would indicate. And I'm also just sitting here hoping that his DCP was on cooldown by this point. I believe it has to be, but we hope that it is. He eats 3 torps. He eats 2 floods. And I'm watching him now saying, he's ticking. The CV flies away and comes back. I could have been shooting here, honestly, and I probably should have been shooting here. It probably would have hastened this guy's demise and quick trip back to port. And it probably would have saved me a little bit of health, but it's a minor mistake and a minor error. You'll notice I didn't get into that cap. I did not want to alert either the CV nor the GK as to where I was until those torpedoes either hit or passed. There was absolutely no reason to give them any more information than they needed to have. And By the way, this was not a bad Super CV player. This was simply a case of pretty much just attempting to keep him in the dark as much as possible and use his own gimmicks against him as much as possible. AKA, when I see those 3-plane rocket squadrons or jet plane squadrons, I don't pop that AA on until he actually detects me. I realize that at that point, he cannot drop. He's going too fast to be able to line up a decent drop. As you saw that both with the bomber squadron and with the rocket squadron. Now, in this case, these are regular rockets. These are a little bit harder to dodge, but if I don't pop the AA on until he shows up in my AA detect range, he's going to have to overfly me to get a decent angle to drop on. Now, at this point, I realize all this game really is now is a matter of managing my remaining heal, my remaining def AA, and my remaining, my priority sector, and my AA guns on and off. Give him as little time as possible to drop me, as little time as possible to reset me. Give him as little opportunity to use his gimmicks to do damage. Now, these are dive bombers. This is the most devastating thing that the United States actually has as a weapon against DDs. So we're going to pop our def AA. We're going to pop our heal. We're going to pop our speed boost, and we are going to dodge and pray to God. Thankfully, just dodge once in a while even works. And you notice we're racking up plane kills. You'll notice his squadrons are no longer really full, except for his jet squadrons. His squadrons are not full. We have pretty much every advantage at this point. Every time his planes come anywhere near me, he loses aircraft, and he's not going to regenerate them fast enough at this point in the game. As well, I do know that the nose of the United States is actually incredibly vulnerable, and as you'll see, we're getting somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,500 to 2,500 per salvo. The rockets we slow and turn away. Yes, his secondaries do knock my engine out, but last stand is a thing, so we do not repair. We absolutely do not repair at this point, because should he get a fire and our DCP is on cooldown, he could nuke our ass into the next calendar year even. Again, jet-assisted bombers come out. The worst thing I want to do is give him every opportunity. I don't want to be broadside, but I don't really have a chance. I have to try and get behind the island and cut off his drop limits. Thankfully, he eats one of those 12 or 13 flak clouds, and that plane disappears. We switch to AP, assuming that he is going to be moderately broadside. He has regular bombers out again, and this is probably going to hurt. I have very limited opportunity to dodge this, and my engine is still down, remember? He gets a drop for about 4K or so, which does not bode well. We drop torps, assuming he's going to turn in gently. We don't think he's going to make a full turn around, and torpedo planes come out. This is the jet squadron. We get one of them. He gets the drop off, and it's 2 torps per plane. Can we outrun these? We have to be careful wiggling. Every time we touch our rudder, we'll lose speed. Oh God, do these hit us? Nope. The torpedo hits first, kills him, and completes the comeback. 207,000 damage, 4 kills. We have an AA defense expert, a dreadnought, a first blood, and a high caliber. 3 caps, by the way. An absolutely stupid amount of base XP, 3,814 base XP, more than double the next closest person on the team, who was actually our Seki Ryu. Shout out to that guy. He did a fantastic job helping out. We did 140,500 plane damage, and we shot down 74 planes, of which only 20 of those were fighters. And again, even with the stupid Super CV costs, we made 450,000 credits with a 40% booster. Guys, we play every single one of these games on our Twitch stream, twitch.tv/DrdrunkAKA. You can also hit the Discord there. Either way, if you like the video, drop a like on the video, head on over and drop a follow on the Twitch stream. It helps out. Until next time, guys, the bar is closing. It is last call. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.